With the extremely large selection of fantasy races, there is no explanation why you chose this race as your favorite, other than the one I'm about to give. This is what your favorite D&D race says about you. Part 1, because there are so many of them, so I'm going to have to split it up, forgive me. Let's go ahead and start with D&D's most iconic monster race in my opinion, the Dragonborn. This is literally in the name, Dungeons & Dragons. You chose Dragonborn for your obvious love of dragons, but also to instill yourself as the leader of your group. From my experience, you guys are definitely the loudest characters in the room, and you use that to push the group towards adventure and loot. Dragonborn players love nothing more than epic tales, and you want to make one for yourself. So any chance you can use that super breath weapon to help instill how cool something is, you get a burst of glee. Now, if Dragonborns are the iconic D&D monster race, Dwarves are the iconic fantasy race with only one other matching its fame. Lord of the Rings, WoW, Deep Rock Galactic, all these sources of fantasy worlds have one thing consistent. Dwarves are Scottish. And so when it came time to decide your character's voice and roleplay, who are you to step on tradition and honor? The truth is that as a dwarf player, you are actually a real-life alcoholic, but you mask it by saying it's a character thing to be drinking non-stop. I can also guarantee that one of your 3 wishes from a genie would be to immediately grow a beard like a dwarf. All things considered with that, however, dwarf players are total bros who will always have your back and make the best drinking buddies. If you have a dwarf in your table, go out and have a beer with them. You're going to have the greatest time ever. This is the other most iconic fantasy race, and yet somehow all interpretation of elves have some sort of agreement, I guess, behind doors to just make them super racist and isolated. And so even when it came time for me to implement them in my world, who am I to step on tradition and honor? Now, while elves can be a really cool fantasy race, their players are anything but. Maybe I'm just biased, but in my experience, I found that they are the first to hate on humans, even though they're the race that's most similar to them. These players also wait like a stalker in the jungle for when someone mentions a long rest, because they want to put their 17th reminder that they don't have to sleep and they can't magically be put to sleep, and in fact, they just meditate for 4 hours. Now, if elf players have not picked up their pitchforks at me just yet, they will right now, because I'll be honest, elf players are really just people that want to be human, but they don't want to be seen as vanilla. So they slap on some pointy ears to give themselves a fantasy change, and they call themselves unique. Would it piss you off if this segment is only 10 seconds long? I assumed it would, since you love being in the spotlight so much. You see, Asmar players suffer the most from main character syndrome. When confronted with a selection of fantasy races, you just had to make yourself special by being part angel. Now, before you pause the video and scroll down to the comment section to write a very heated letter, this is coming from someone who puts Aasimars as his favorite race. So, strike me down, but you're striking one of your own. Now, when it comes to actually running the game, you can act as modest as you want, but we all know you sent your DM a 10-page backstory and message them every single week about your upcoming character arc. And honestly, is that a bad thing? No. So long as you're adaptable, this is the reason why I love Aasimars, because they can have the most amazing story with awesome twists and turns that can happen throughout. And so for you Aasimar players, when it comes to the story, you absolutely love to be involved in it, but you really like to be special. And if your DM ever throws in some kind of prophecy, ooh, that's going to hit your sweet spot. You are either a theater kid or a DM yourself. And so once you found out changelings can use an endless amount of looks and voices, you delved right in to show off your acting talent. Now, changeling players are so immersed in their race that they actually incorporate the shapeshifting feature into their schedule, because if anyone is most likely to miss a session, it's a changeling player. 9 out of 10 of you are going to pair this with a martial class. And without condemning or condoning, I understand. You want to be a big race, and big race means big scary. However, with a race's entire identity being that they are tall, most of you actually have a height insecurity issue. And if there is a spell or something that turns you short, you will go wild. Now, Goliath players love to incite chaos because they want to fight anything that can move. So you can definitely expect them to get in bar fights every single time there's a tavern. They also are always looking for the nearest thing that they can throw at someone and see how far they can throw it. And if there's a dwarf in the party, they're going to fight with them on which race can drink better. You love to be gross. In character, of course. Yeah, right, of course. However, I am terrified to look at any of your rooms. Now, for Goblin players, they are truly entering their culture and their role playing whenever they get to use Fury of the Small. The smirk and hysterical giggle is all you need to know that they've officially entered Goblin mode. And like a Goblin, they're most likely to hoard all the props in D&D, have the most amount of dice, and have the most amount of things that they put out on the table for their character. The main thing about Goblins, however, is that they want to so badly to be the poster child of small races, and so it infuriates them when they see the other ones that are so famous for it. And speaking of the poster child of small races, we have the Gnomes. You are or were the class clown growing up, and paired with your character's squeaky voice, you want to wear the badge of comic relief proudly. Now, while I have seen a lot of gnomes be played differently, the main thing about them that I can guarantee you, which is a law in D&D, is that at some point in the campaign, there's a 99 to 100% chance that you will be thrown. A ton of people will say that Tabaxi players are just furries. From my experience, I disagree. The real truth is that these players only know one word in their vocabulary, and that is speed. This is the most zoomer race ever, and their love for cats is nowhere near for their love to break the sound barrier anytime they want to move. Puss in Boots is your favorite character in the Shrek series, and the only thing that steals your thunder is the much bigger and much scarier Leonins. The common saying is that this is the most vanilla, boring race ever, and while it could be true for some people, this to me is a Chad pick. If there is a world of races that can fly, turn invisible, live to be 700, and you stay repping the human race, you have my vote. However, because you are human, your unique role-playing has to come from your story, and so I can say with absolute certainty that your character's parents are dead. And if they aren't, remember how I said that the stereotype does apply to some people? If you stayed watching till the end, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed, and if you haven't seen your favorite race, you can expect it in a video soon enough, so go ahead and like and subscribe, and stay tuned for that. We are also streaming usually at night, but we are world building, lore building, making homebrew classes. It's a ton of fun, and so I hope to see you down there soon enough. With that being said, go ahead and grab yourself a cup of coffee, and take care.